Hey everyone, welcome back to the Shea Station podcast. It is episode 106. It is Saturday, October 8th, and the Mets, in their first playoff game in 6 years, got punched in the mouth by the San Diego Padres by a final score of 7-1. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jack, aka Jolly Olive. You saw me sat on stream last night, and you saw Jerry looking great on SNY TV at the ballpark. Jerry, how you doing?
This is how I feel.
We're going hoods up. We're going
I'm
hoods up.
I'm going like Kenny. If I said a Kenny reference, would you know what I'm talking
I knew
about?
what you were talking about. They
Okay,
killed
well.
Jerry. Those bastards. They killed Jerry.
Oh, I'm a full mix of emotions.
Yeah.
Uh, it's very similar to the Atlanta series, except this one is, winner take all, like winner go home.
Right.
And Scherzer doesn't look right, and
Mm.
it bothers me, and I feel terrible for him, for the fan base. Um, because in his post game he said he thought he made the adjustments and he clearly didn't. I hope he's okay physically. Eh, Um, but yeah, it's pretty ominous. But this is a good thing. We have Jacob deGrom on the
Yeah.
mound, so it's a new day, a new morning. We're ready to win. Everybody's going to be facing elimination. You
Yeah,
know,
that's the crazy part about Wild Card Weekend, and also the good part, I think, because a one gamer here would be a really tough way to end the season, and at least you get a shot to deploy the strategy that you've been touting since March, which is deGrom and Scherzer in 2 games. You're bound to win at least one of them. Well, now you got to win one of them for sure. Um, deGrom hasn't looked amazing in September, but he's still Jacob deGrom, and it's his first playoff start since World Series Game 2 in 2015.
how about this? This is his first postseason appearance at Citi Field ever.
None of his starts were at home.
Nope.
Are you kidding? Wait, that's a
LA,
crazy stat.
LA, Chicago, and Kansas City.
Right,
I would
both.
like to take I would like to take credit for it, but it's Gary Cohen and
Ah, so
the
it's
guy's
good.
the king. So
You are totally right. Yeah, 2 in LA where he won both, one in Chicago where he won, and then one in Kansas City where he got outdueled by Cueto, who was really good that game.
yeah, and
But
he's pitched in an elimination game before,
yes, he has.
and he didn't have his best stuff, but he gutted it out. Um, but I'm expecting, you know, the best Jacob deGrom because of what I saw from him in Atlanta. Like it started out very poor, right? But after those 2 home runs early, he locked it in and he was pitching angry and he was mixing his locations. And then Dansby got him, but that's going to happen. Dansby was the hottest hitter on the planet, but this lineup could be pitched to, and he's nasty. Um, there's no reason for me to do anything but expect amazingness from Jacob deGrom. Now, the feeling because of how Atlanta went and how bad Scherzer looked, that it's going to keep like snowballing. Scherzer down, deGrom down, that or deGrom and Scherzer. So there's a little bit of down feeling with it because it could be Jacob deGrom's last appearance as a Met. Um, you know, you tweeted it out this morning, legacy start, and it is. But there are some very good signs, and I'm actually looking forward to the game very much because I expect a legacy game. I expect this, you know, Jacob deGrom to throw the Mets on his back and carry us to tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it is most certainly a legacy game. A lot of there's a lot of doom on the timeline. There's also a lot of encouragement. I really liked this stat from Mark Healy. The Mets lost game 1 of the 69 World Series. They lost game 1 of the 73 NLCS, 86 NLCS, 86 World Series, and 2000 NLDS. And they won all those games. Now, this is a much greater challenge because there is zero room for error. You got to win both games out. But I do think you face the toughest of the trio of the Padres starters in Yu Darvish, who honestly I don't think was completely untouchable last night. I think he made a decent handful of mistakes, and this lineup just could not capitalize. He was relying heavily on that cutter, high and low, and it was just befuddling Mets hitters. And it was kind of a similar game that we've seen a lot recently, which was the Mets got things going in the first 2 innings and could not punch a run across. And then that allowed the starter to just get into a rhythm, and he settled in for basically the rest of the game. He probably would have went 8 innings if not for Mark Canha making him throw 13 pitches in one at bat. Um, but the most shocking thing to me was the Padres winning by way of the home run ball, because they're not one of the good slugging teams in baseball, not just in the postseason field, but they smack 4 home runs, including Trent Grisham, who admittedly is one of my guys. I made a video about him. I like Trent Grisham a lot. Did not like him in that moment for sure. Did not like him.
Yeah, Profar, Josh Bell murdered a ball.
Oh my God.
Machado tried to get the cover off. Yeah, man, just there was positive signs though. You want to do some positivity here on Shea Station?
I got a couple positive signs. I got a
Uh,
couple.
yeah, you hit them up and I'll follow.
The Mets had a good game plan for how to attack when they got guys on base, because one of the biggest Padres vulnerabilities is them getting stolen bases upon. And the Mets were able to steal 3 bases in the first 2 innings with Lindor and Marte. I loved Lindor going on the first pitch, catching guys flat footed. Marte looks healthy, and I'm sure that'll be something you can expand on as well. And the Mets, I mean, they made solid contact last night. A lot of warning track shots, a lot of good at bats, honestly, besides that little murky area from the third to the fifth. Um, just they couldn't really get anything to fall. But I liked where the game plan in terms of what Buck wanted to do was at.
I'm gonna follow up. One, you Darvish was nasty. Like he made some pitches in the middle on occasion, but his stuff was moving. He was changing speeds. That high cutter is really hard. I don't know how difficult how to explain it, but visually as a hitter, that is a pitch you don't see. And you ever like sometimes um like Diaz throws a backup slider that just that's what it is. It's like I was talking to Todd Zeal, and Todd was like, sometimes guys would throw a backup slider and it gets a swing and miss every time because the ball's supposed to go here and it ends up here. And you can't prepare for that. So visually your whole life it's telling you to do that. And Todd was like, if guys could do that all the time, they would. Well, you Darvish has figured it out. It's that cutter at the top of the zone or above. Like he got Ed Escobar with the runner on third. He struck him out on that. It was nasty. Like it's really hard to hit. They looked good. They got hits. They put runners in scoring position and then not getting him in. The big one that was mistake ridden was Alonso. Alonso looked anxious at the plate. He looked overexcited. I mean, Darvish threw a first pitch sinker at like 93, and Pete Alonso hit it 6,000 miles, but so foul. I was like, how is he that far in front? Because you're going to get slowed down. Like they're going to. So he was give him a game off because he didn't look great at the plate. But outside of that, everybody looked solid. Played good defense. Nito looked good. They threw a guy out. Like, um, I liked what I saw. The bullpen was amazing. Yeah, bullpen. I was shocked to see Lugo come in. But you had so many innings. I understood May because at that point you want to put a cap on it, give yourself some time, and then Lugo coming in. But I would have liked to have seen McGill throw because that's why he's on the team, kind of mop up duty, I'm assuming. But everybody's still capable of pitching today because they didn't throw too many.
Yeah, I mean, the path to success today for me is deGrom, Ottavino, Diaz. I think that is, if things go perfectly, that is the way it lines up. And honestly, like if Ottavino gets a runner on or deGrom gets a runner on late, use Diaz for as many outs as he can. If he goes for
Well,
six, I'm
that's
cool
what
with
it's
it.
going to be.
I mean,
Uh,
it's must win. You got to act like
I
it for
mean,
sure.
yeah, I think that's the path. So
Yeah.
you do what you got to do. I think deGrom for 8, Diaz for 1. if
That'd
it's
be
tight.
awesome.
If the offense shows up,
Yeah.
and Snell is having a great year. He's a left-handed starter. It's going to be tough. But if the offense, throws up a 4 or 5 spot, let Jake go a little bit.
Yeah.
Get
And
him to that 100 pitch.
for Snell, he had 2 starts against us this year. One of them was 5 shutout innings, and one of them was 4 2/3, where we got 5 on him. So regardless of how he does, I don't envision Snell getting incredibly deep into the game. And honestly, the Mets were still taking some good at bats at the beginning and the end of Darvish's start yesterday. Darvish was just pounding strikes, not really afraid to throw it down the middle to any of the guys. Um, so for us, I mean, I'm not worried about the pitching tonight. I mean, I think, Scherzer giving up 7 earned runs. There's no way to get back into that game, really. I mean, you can just take the positives from it, but there's no way to really overcome what is the worst start in his playoff career outright. He said that if he gets another shot to pitch, he knows what he needs to do, which is a little encouraging. Because I definitely had the thought of, if you do come back and you win this series and you make it to the NLDS, do you have Max Scherzer for the rest of this run, or is it now is Cookie getting into this 4-man rotation and Jake is at the helm? So that's a whole nother problem that we may not even have to worry about. But at the
We
same
hope we
time,
do.
we hope we do.
We hope we do.
Yeah, definitely
I
so.
think he'll be there. I'm worried that he doesn't know the adjustment, because he said 2 different things. The first thing he said was, "I thought I made the adjustments," and the results were the exact same. He couldn't get to his glove side. Everything was leaking back out over the heart of the plate, and he didn't make any of the adjustments. And it just didn't have that zip on it. But he then said, "I know what I need to do," which is, I believe you, but also show me. So, but that was the thing I said on the post game, was like, I've seen him when his fastball has that jump that he was talking about. He throws no hitters and he throws CGs. When he doesn't, he still was able to start throwing his slider more, but he wasn't able to make the adjustment today or yesterday, and that's 2 games in a row that he couldn't adjust. So I think, again, when he goes back out, if we get to another Scherzer start, which I hope we do, obviously, I expect him to make the adjustment and look good. But I'll be weary and heavy eye. Like, what are you doing? You gonna be all right? You gonna be
Pitching coach
okay?
Jerry. Pitching coach Jerry.
Yeah, I'm gonna be looking for it. So
Guys, we're going to dive into the probables for tonight's game, the batter pitcher matchup, some lineup predictions. But first, I got to tell you about a new sponsor for Shea Station. Tough episode to debut a new sponsor, but we do love these guys over at True Classic. They're all about t-shirts and finding the perfect fitting shirt for any guy out there. It can be tough to find a good fitting shirt. The thing could be too tight, has a case of a bacon neck, or just plain big and boxy, but True Classic wants to make every man feel good and look good. Tighter fit in the chest and sleeves make your arms pop, and room in the torso to keep things cozy. That is what True Classic is all about. They have an exclusive deal for our listeners. They want to hook you up with some True Classic for a limited time only. Get 25% off. Oh, not just 20%, 25% off with the code Shea at trueclassic.com. It's more than just a t-shirt company. They have menswear staples you could need. They got polo, workout shirts, same flattering fit as their t-shirts as well, boxer briefs as well. You can get anything you need from trueclassic.com. They got every single size out there. They got long body options for the tall guys, like Jerry Blevins, perfect. And triple XL is the max size they got there on all their staple colors. Skinny dudes, big dudes, buff dudes, my dudes. True Classic has you covered. If you go to their website, use code Shea, you get 25% off and free shipping, including on purchases over $100. There's a 100% risk-free guarantee with a 30-day return policy as well. True Classic, when you look good, you feel good. Thank you to them for sponsoring today's episode of Shea Station. I am done talking about wildcard game 1. Let's talk about game 2, because there's plenty to look forward to. A lot of good matchups. Jacob deGrom on the hill. Mets have a chip on their shoulder now.
yeah, man, deGrom big time. Like, this is what it's all about. I'm excited for deGrom. And Francisco Alvarez probably going to be in there, DH.
I know. Would you just
Although
catch
Darren Ruff,
Francisco Alvarez maybe?
no, need to look good again. Need to look
Yeah,
good again at the plate.
yeah, it's
He,
fair.
he's. I thought he hit a homer,
I
but
thought he got a good piece of that.
yeah, he
He really
took some
did.
good at bats. This is the kind of, he looks good.
Yeah.
So continue it. So he's there.
So for deGrom, the Padres didn't get a chance to look at him in the regular season when we played them twice. He was still on the injured list. Could be an advantage for us because they're kind of going in blind. So the most recent at bats any of these Padres hitters have had against them is 2021. deGrom, as we know, has not thrown in the playoffs since 2015. His numbers in that playoff year were really, really good. 25 innings pitched, 8 earned runs, a 3-1 record, 29 punchies to 8 walks. The big thing that I think a lot of people are looking at are his last 4 starts of the season, which came against some lowly teams and the Braves. 21 innings there, 14 earned runs on 6 home runs allowed, and an 0-3 record. So it is going to be what Jacob deGrom do we get tonight? Do we get the one that kind of leaves it all out there? Or do we get the one that maybe we saw in September that didn't have his sharpest stuff?
Yeah, man. And again, this is the thing, and it's hard to say for like Mets fans to hear. This is the team that you were excited about going into spring training. It's the 1-2 punch of Scherzer deGrom, and that's who you got to trust in if they're going to be there. So deGrom is the guy. He's the next man up, the stopgap. This is this is your bread and butter. This is your backbone. If you go down and those two guys fall short, um, not much that you can say. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
definitely so. As for Blake Snell, he finishes the year with some pretty good numbers, an 8-10 record and a 3.88 ERA. Had a much better second half than the first half, but still a good year on the whole. His 2 starts against the Mets, we talked a little bit about before. One pretty good, one not so good. The one not so good came in his shaky first half. And Snell does have a decent playoff resume. I will say most of that came in the 2020 playoffs, but he was one of the faces of that entire playoff run, specifically his last start against the Dodgers, where Kevin Cash yanked him early. Still don't understand that. Jimmy has a great breakdown on that as well, where he kind of details just why it's a bad move across the board. But in 2019 and 2020, Snell had 9 playoff games, 35 innings, and a 2.83 ERA, 44 punchies to 14 walks, 6 homers allowed. And Snell, unlike deGrom, finished the year pretty strong in his last 4 starts. 25 innings, only 2 earned runs allowed. Both of those were solo shots, and a 2-1 record. So Blake Snell versus Jacob deGrom should be a very exciting matchup.
yeah, man, Blake Snell is different than the Snell that was in Tampa. He is understandably not going to pitch deep into a game. Um, and he's used to be fastball curveball. Now he's fastball slider curveball, heavy slider. Maybe like 2 changeups a game to righties, but he's a 60% fastball, especially to lefties. Fastball top of the zone, slider off of that, and then curveball off of that. So um, he's a swing and miss style of pitcher. He's going to throw high 90s and he's going to nibble at the zone and try to get you to chase and swing through it. And then they're going to rely on their bullpen. So it's, if I were a bet man, I'd be putting money on the Mets, but I don't know the lines. I don't
Mm.
know, the odds that you're going to get,
The
but I
Mets are
think
still favored tonight.
that's exactly what I was going to say. The Mets are going to be favored because of the way they've been playing. I imagine the favors is probably not as lucrative or
Mm.
more lucrative if you bet Mets now than it would be normally.
Right.
So maybe, but I have all the faith that I would be shocked if the Mets don't win tonight. So
Jerry, let me ask you something. Is it immoral for me as a Mets fan to go ahead and put money on the Padres, almost as if I'm betting for a Padres loss, like I'm paying for the Mets to win?
I would never do that,
Mm.
but you do what you got to do, man.
You told me
I don't
everything I
know.
need to know with that first part. You told me everything.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, I don't hedge my bets, especially when I'm rooting for my team. You know what
Mm.
I mean?
I got you. It's fair. I got to stay
Uh,
loyal. Maybe I'll bet on the Mets. Go for double double.
I know a lot of people that do what you're saying. You're like, ah, well, if I don't win my game, at least I win some money.
Right.
So
But
there's,
no money can heal this heart if we lose. No money can do it.
yeah. Well, this is. I like what I saw. Marte is playing through
Marte looked
pain.
healthy.
He looked healthy in his legs.
Yeah.
His hand looked painful, especially when he ran into the wall on that
Oh
catch.
yeah. Great
Yeah,
catch.
so he's playing through it, man.
Yeah.
And hats off to him. He's not complaining. He's just saying, it's there. So
Yeah. I don't remember. I think he slid headfirst on both of his steals, right?
he did.
What a warrior. It's
He's got
crazy.
that, the club on
Yeah.
his right
Surprised it
hand.
fit in the batting glove, honestly.
I know.
I think it looked thick. Yeah, so we got some probable numbers, batter matchups against Snell and deGrom. Does anything stick out to you right off the bat that you think we should jump on? Because I like some of these Mets hitter numbers against Snell.
I like all of our Mets hitters numbers. Here's the guys have success off of him. If they're patient, they get a ball they can hit. Um, I'm. How do you feel if they start Darren Ruff tonight?
So I want to preface this by saying Ruff is 3 for 7, a homer, 3 walks, and 3 punches against Snell. And Alvarez came up last night, didn't have a great at bat against Luis Garcia, kind of stared at a pitch to end the game. Mets fans will be very upset, I think, if Darren Ruff is in tonight's lineup. Me personally, if you do start him, which I think I would be okay with, if he has 2 poor at bats, I'm yanking him. Like I'm taking him out of the game. I'm throwing in something else just to try and get it to work. But I think you have to go with the numbers here a little bit. Alvarez, he's a 20-year-old kid. He's never seen Snell before. He's probably never seen that nasty of a lefty before. And Darren Ruff has been there in the playoffs. He's homered off Snell. He's got great numbers against a lot of the Padres relievers as well. I don't know, man. Try and find some magic. Why not? I don't know.
I start Alvarez.
You
It's
start
the reason he's
Alvarez.
here. He looked fine. He got an at bat last night. Get those jitters out, and he can catch up to a fastball. So top of the zone's tough for him because of his uppercut swing. But I think if they talk to him about approach and everything, and he doesn't chase, which he showed me in the Washington series, that he's can be patient too. I think he'll be fine. And I like the roll of the dice if because people will show up with pitchforks if Darren Ruff looks terrible that first at bat.
Yeah, and I think that Ruff might be better served in a pinch hit scenario better than Alvarez, just because that's a tough spot for the kid, and you want him to get a couple looks to see what you can get. Whereas Ruff, I think, is probably a little bit more used to that kind of role. But yeah, Darren Ruff in the starting lineup. I see the reasoning behind it, but it would lead to a mob at Citi Field. It would.
Yeah, if he doesn't perform, especially with runners in scoring position, I like the lightning in the bottle. I like the rolling of dice of what you could get from Alvarez. I think all things being equal, Darren Ruff would have had a great second half with the Mets, and he would have shown up, and this would have been an easy choice because
Yep.
his numbers. But he looks so bad.
He looks so bad.
Yeah, so I don't know.
But Mets hitters against Snell are honestly solid across the board. One that's really encouraging to me is Pete. Pete has some good numbers: 3 for 9, a double, a homer, and 3 walks, and only 1 strikeout, which is nice. So hopefully we see some hard contact from Pete. Hopefully the jitters are off after game 1 and he can settle in a little bit. But it's a lot of the guys in the middle of the lineup too. Canna is 4 for 11 with a double and 3 walks. Marte, who looked good, all things considered last night, 5 for 15, a double and a home run. McNeil is 2 for 5. Nimmo is 3 for 9 with a double. But there's one guy that surprisingly has struggled mightily against Blake Snell. Do you know who it is?
No, I don't.
It is Francisco Lindor. 3 for
Ah,
25, a double and 5 punch outs. So Lindor from the right side has not been sharp against Blake Snell, but he's about the only guy I could find with poor numbers against Blake Snell. A lot of these guys drew a decent amount of walks, hit for extra bases. So Lindor is going to be a little bit of an X factor because we're still kind of waiting for our Lindor postseason moment, and tonight would be a really good spot to get one.
I agree. And again, I've liked what Lindor's looked like so far uh, over this stretch. He was unbelievable down the stretch. Kind of had a rough go of it in Atlanta, like everybody did. Um, and he took some decent at bats last night. So I looked for him to right the ship. Pete Alonso, on the other hand, man, he looked real out of his comfort zone. Um, he needs to calm himself. I think it was pretty indicative that second at bat, walking off the field, shaking his head like, I don't know what I'm doing out there. Like he
Yeah.
literally looked like he said that.
He flung the bat, one of his strikeouts as well, which
That was
is
that was that one. He threw the bat, which I don't think I've ever seen. He just launched the bat and then he was walking off like took his helmet off like I don't know. I was
needs
like,
some
whoa,
meditation. Needs some home run derby meditation from Pete right
just
now. Vibe a little bit.
oh,
Pretend like some
get it.
music's playing in your head.
He just needs to relax. And
That's it. Yeah.
that's the thing. The Mets can win without Pete Alonso, but they can also win just because of one man named Pete Alonso. Like
Yes.
they don't need him, but he could win it for them.
Yeah, Trev said this on Talking Baseball, and it's like it's great when the bottom of your lineup gives you stuff. Like Eduardo Escobar had a great game last night, and Starling Marte looked sharp, but you need your guys in October. Like you can't have a cold streak from your two biggest guys in your lineup. And I know it's only one game, but like all it could be this entire run is two games. So like you gotta wake up and do something for us, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to see. Uh, I like the way Nimmo's looked at the plate. Um, McNeil looks good. Like I think you can win with deGrom on the mound without Lindor Alonso producing. Obviously, it would be a much easier road to victory if those two guys step up. You said something about Marte. You think he'll move to the second. I'm not sure Marte gets a start today. Uh,
Interesting. I don't know if you can
only
take him out
only
of the lineup.
because they wouldn't take him out of line. If he can play, he'll play. But like that's a lot of at bats. That's a lot of swings. That's a lot of impact on that finger. I hope he's fine to bounce back. So that's what I'm going to look for him. If he's available, he'll be in there starting.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if I'm the Mets and you said like you can, the Mets can get a win without Lindor and Alonso going. I agree with that with deGrom on the mound. But at the same time, like you need to come out here and you got to make a statement, man. You got to try and reclaim that momentum. You need to get the crowd into this game because the crowd wanted to be into it last night
oh,
and they
they
were
did.
taken out of it almost immediately and never really got the chance.
So I feel like that's what Alonso was trying to do. He was trying to have a moment, and instead of just taking an at bat, he was trying to lift. It was crazy because I was walking around in the stadium right at the beginning. Like after we finished, I went and walked around. I wanted to soak up the environment, which was electric. And I'm walking around. I think I'm on the concourse on the 500 level, watching the game, and then they hit that home run off of Scherzer in the top of the first, and the crowd dies down, but then they pick it back up, and then in the bottom of the first, they're going bananas, runner on third, less than 2 outs, and then Alonso's horrible at bat deflated, and that was like the momentum went to the Padres, and the Mets had a chance to steal it back. And instead, it like snowballed even worse the other way. So that was tough. And then in the second, the same thing. Um, so don't force action. That this is something that I did when I was a pitcher. I knew, like in the moments, I knew guys wanted to be the hero, and so I would take advantage of that because I would give them something they think they can hit and have them chase out of the zone, and I could work that into my favor. And so I want Pete to just relax a little bit. You don't have to be the hero. Let yourself play, and then that'll be natural. So I think that first game jitter will be out of the way, and he can take a breath because it's the playoffs. It's a big environment. A lot of guys. It's a little bit overwhelming at first. So
And it would be very 2022 Mets to come back and win these two games when everybody's counting you out. So that's certainly what we're all hoping for. We got some notable matchups against deGrom as well. A lot of poor stat lines, which is what you'd expect for a batter against Jacob deGrom. Uh, Josh Bell, 0 for 6, 3 punch outs, never gotten a hit against deGrom. That's encouraging because he looked like a bad man last night. Jurickson Profar also homered last night. He's 0 for 5 with a punch out against deGrom. Grisham, Drury, Nola, they've never faced deGrom. Cronenworth, Kim both have really small sample sizes, so they're relatively inexperienced. There's 4 guys we should really talk about with decent sample sizes and mixed results against deGrom. The best line you could find here is Manny Machado, and we talked about in the prior episode about how he had really poor numbers against Scherzer. Didn't matter. He absolutely tattooed a fastball. Maybe the quickest I've seen a home run get out at City Field. Machado's 6 for 20 with a walk and 6 punchouts against deGrom. Not a bad line there. Will Myers, 5 for 24. He struck out 11 times against deGrom, so we can bank on that. Big one for me is Juan Soto. Juan Soto and Jacob deGrom is a classic baseball matchup. We used to get it a lot more than we do now because he's not in the Nationals anymore. 3 for 15, a double, a home run, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. I think maybe the most annoying part about yesterday is that you lost the game 7-1, but you made Juan Soto go 0 for 4. He was a non-factor in the game. He was handled, and it was the rest of the Padres lineup that did the damage, which is kind of a sucker punch a little bit. But that doesn't mean, you can ease up on Juan Soto. He's still just as much of a threat as he was before, and handling him should be a big part of the Mets' agenda today.
Yeah, man. He hasn't been the same this year, especially as a Padre. His numbers are all down. But you can't pitch to him like that. You have to assume he's still the same, powerhouse, because the last thing you want to do is to give in to him and for him to turn things around. So you have to attack him. The last thing about yesterday's game, the Machado home run, a mistake. He threw a fastball in. Machado, for a big guy, loves to have the ball close to him. Josh Bell, the opposite. He tried to go in, threw the ball away twice, 3-0. Pitch was right away. Tried to go in 3-1 and left it over. He couldn't get to his glove side. And Josh Bell, like most big guys, loves to get his arms extended and mashes the ball. So you should throw everything in to Josh Bell, which is, Jacob deGrom throws that fastball glove side, that slider coming into him. And, for Machado, he doesn't like the ball as much away. Um, and he crushes off-speed pitches even more than he does fastballs. And deGrom has, an amazing fastball, maybe the best on the planet. Um, although Helsley, who got beat up a little bit,
Can you
had some
believe
issues.
that? That's
He had
crazy.
some, he got some numbness in his middle finger, but man, that guy's fastball is explosive.
Yeah.
But so again, I'm expecting vintage deGrom.
Yeah. I mean, as he should, man. I mean, the Bell home run, it almost looked like Scherzer tried to throw the same pitch twice in a row, which I
He
think he just,
tried to he messed up. He missed
yeah,
twice.
missed twice. Can't be doing that against a dangerous hitter. But I mean, I hope DeGrom comes out angry. I hope he comes out with a little bit of intensity, knowing that his last time here was 7 years ago when he was a kid. And it's been a lifetime since, 2 Cy Youngs since, multiple All-Star appearances. And you said it at the top of the show, and I don't want to do too much on it, but yeah, this could be the last time we see Jacob deGrom in the blue and orange, and it's something worth discussing. But at the same time, I want to duck it as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, man, that's fair. It could be. We'll talk about it when that road becomes clear. But this is, if you're a Mets fan and you've been with this team for a while, this is the best player you've seen in a long time. Um, Come out and support. I think this environment, the first time pitching at home for him in a playoff game, is going to be an amazing environment. I think it's going to be electric here. The crowd was awesome last night. It's going to be cold tonight, uh, even more so. But I expect, I expect to find a highlight reel type game uh, for the ages from Jacob deGrom.
Before we get going, can I get a lineup prediction from you tonight? What do you think we're looking at?
What do you mean? You am I a guy
Because
I'm
you
looking at?
because I like, what's your starting nine? Because I know you mentioned you might not see Starling Marte in there. Is Nito or
So
McCann starting? Alvarez or Ruff?
Nito's starting. It's
Okay.
if McCann's starting, I might show up with a pitchfork. Um, I think you got to anticipate Marte playing
Yeah.
because so I think he stays at the bottom of the order. Although they might switch him and McNeil to give McNeil more comfort down at the bottom of the lineup, and it might be better. We'll see how he feels. If he doesn't feel good, I don't think they'll move him up. But I think Alvarez is going to be DH, and I think that's the best, most explosive lineup that you can have.
Yeah, I think a lot about the Mets offense changed when Starling Marte went to the IL, just because that two hole is just kind of it's a rotating door, and Starling Marte had kind of been a stable beacon there. So if I'm the Mets and he's healthy and he's playing, I'm pushing him up. I think Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso, that 1 through 4 is what we've been missing, and I think everybody's a little bit more right when we have that. Because then McNeil's down at the 5, you get him in a runners in scoring position scenario. Escobar goes down to that 7 behind Canna. And I do think you start Alvarez and Nito here tonight. I think you go with the young gun with the quick bat and see what he's got against the lefty, because that's what he's here for. Maybe rough pinch hits later in the game. I'd love to see Terrence score on the base paths tonight, especially with how vulnerable the Padres looked behind the plate last night. And I need to hear the trumpets tonight, man. I gotta hear the trumpets
Well,
tonight.
I promise you that the Mets won't go out without Diaz pitching. You know what I mean? Unless deGrom's going for a CG. Um, yeah, because that's Buck Showalter learned from not pitching. Who's a lefty?
Britain.
Britain. Yeah, I mean that was his. Everybody was like, "Oh, he's done. He's old.
Mm.
He's saving his closer." But that was on the road.
Took him 6 years to get a job again.
Yeah, yeah, and I think he's shown nothing but brilliance and ability to adapt and take in all the information you can. I've been so impressed with Buck. Again, this season, play a scenario out real quick with me. They lose tonight. Season feels like a failure, but I don't think it is.
I in the immediate moment, it'll feel like a
It'll
failure.
be a disappointment, hands down. This team should have gone farther. But if you're a Mets fan, you could feel good about the direction of the franchise. I think, you've got a lot of question marks going, but at least you have a foundation of winning baseball, a formula of success. You'll have to replace a bunch of talent. There'll be a lot of question marks out there with guys going, but again, hopefully we're not there yet. This is an off-season discussion that we can have later on. But I'm looking forward to a Jacob deGrom moment, and I think he's going to shine.
Yeah, let's get game 3. Let's get it to Bassett, and let's keep going. Series is not over. It's not a wild card game. Got to show up tonight. Make it count for something.
Elimination game.
DeGrom's really good in those, though. He's really
I
good in
mean,
that
this
spot.
the stage doesn't get bigger and brighter, and this is a deGrom moment. So I've seen him pull through so many times. The guy behind you with the long hair, I've seen him pull through. The guy with the short hair who was won 2 Cy Youngs, I've seen him pull through. So I'm looking forward to tonight big time.
So hopefully when we chat tomorrow, it is about a win, and we're previewing game 3.
Who is your secret sauce? Who's the lineup guy that you're looking for? Who's the one that's going to come through?
You know, I picked Mark Canna at the beginning of the series, took a great at bat last night, didn't have the results I really wanted. I'm sticking with him. I just think Mark Canna is due to do something big.
Yeah, I'm with you. I picked Escobar last night. No big deal.
No big deal.
I think I would go with him again, but I think I want to see Alvarez come
Hell
through in the
yeah.
clutch.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
it'll
First
be fun.
postseason hit for the kid. I'd
So
like to
now
see
they
that as
have to
well.
start him.
They have to. If they start
Yeah.
rough, get your pick shorts ready. That's all I'm saying. All right, guys. Keep your head up. There's still one more game to play,
Let's
and
go.
hopefully more
It's
after
a
that.
new day.
It's a new day. Get loud. Get excited.
Be
Get a chip
loud.
on your
Be
shoulder.
proud. Shout your name out loud. My niece is a cheerleader, so sorry.
I thought you were a cheerleader for a second.
I am a cheerleader for her as she's
Oh, I
cheering.
like that.
So,
I like that.
competitions, all that.
Let's go, Mets.
Let's go Mets.